Welcome back to Artificial Evidence, where we dig into the cases that linger in the shadows, waiting to be uncovered. I am your host, Owen Carver, and today we are taking a walk through the crowded streets of New York City in the sweltering summer of 1982. On the surface, it seemed like a small-time crime. A missing hot dog vendor, a scattered cart, and a few stray bills floating through the air on a hot July night. But what started as a strange disappearance quickly unraveled into something much darker. A hidden past, a trail of debts, and a murder that played out beneath the noses of thousands of unsuspecting pedestrians. This is the story of Victor Rizzo, the hot dog vendor who vanished without a trace. In New York City, hot dog carts are as much a part of the landscape as the skyscrapers and the honking taxis. They are on every corner, feeding tourists and locals alike, serving up cheap meals in wax paper wrappers. And in the summer of 1982, Victor Rizzo's cart was one of the busiest in Midtown. He worked the same spot every day, at the corner of 42nd Street and 8th Avenue, right outside the Port Authority bus terminal, the kind of place where the crowds never stop, where people are always rushing to catch a train or a bus or just trying to get through the city without getting caught up in the chaos. Victor had been running that cart for nearly 10 years. He was a fixture on that corner, recognizable by his stained apron, the sweat on his brow, and the way he barked out orders with a thick Brooklyn accent. Everyone knew him. The cab drivers, the shop owners, even the cops walking their beat. But on the evening of July 12th, something was different. At around 8:45, a man named Leonard Pace, another street vendor selling pretzels a block away, noticed something strange. Victor's cart was there, right where it should be, but Victor was not. The grill was still hot, smoke curling up into the humid air. There were hot dogs lined up on the rollers, half cooked and forgotten. A few ketchup packets were torn open and scattered on the sidewalk, and the cash box had been knocked over, spilling crumpled bills and coins onto the pavement. It looked like Victor had stepped away for a moment and never come back. The police were called. At first, they treated it like an accident. Maybe Victor had fallen ill and wandered off. Maybe he had gotten into an argument with someone and left in a hurry. But there were no signs of a struggle, no blood, no obvious clues pointing to what had happened. And Victor Rizzo was gone. For the first 24 hours, the investigation moved slowly. The police questioned other vendors, cab drivers, anyone who might have seen something. But in a city like New York, people do not pay much attention to the ordinary. A man walking away from a hot dog cart barely registered as unusual. Then, on the morning of July 14th, just 2 days after he vanished, a sanitation worker named Ricky Guzman was clearing out a dumpster behind a row of buildings on 39th Street. When he noticed a foul smell, the kind of smell that sticks in your throat, that turns your stomach before you even see what is causing it. Stuffed into a pile of black garbage bags, wrapped in a stained blue tarp, was a body. Victor Rizzo. He had been stabbed 7 times in the chest and stomach. His hands were bound with twine, and his pockets had been turned inside out, emptied. But what was strangest was the single hot dog, still in its bun, placed neatly on his chest. The discovery sent shockwaves through the neighborhood. Who would kill a hot dog vendor, and why? Detectives dug into Victor's past, looking for anything that might explain his murder. And that is when they found it. Victor Rizzo was not just a hot dog vendor. He had a history. Back in the late 1960s, he had been involved in small-time racketeering schemes. Nothing big, nothing that made headlines, but enough to get him into trouble with the wrong people. He had run with a crew tied to a local loan shark named Salvatore Bruno, a man known for making debts disappear and making people disappear along with them. Victor had managed to get out of that life, or so he thought. The police began tracing his recent movements, and one name kept coming up: Tommy DeLuca. DeLuca was a low-level enforcer, a guy who worked muscle jobs for whoever paid him. He had been seen talking to Victor a few days before he disappeared. Witnesses remembered the exchange because it had not been friendly. Voices were raised. There had been some shoving. Detectives pulled DeLuca in for questioning, but he was slick. He denied everything. Said he did not know Victor, never talked to him, had nothing to do with his death. But his alibi was weak, and when police searched his apartment, they found something that changed everything. A receipt, dated the night of the murder, from a hardware store for a roll of twine. The same kind used to bind Victor's hands. It was enough to bring him in, enough to make a case. But still, the biggest question remained unanswered: why? That answer came from an unexpected source. Victor's own nephew, a 22-year-old named Frankie Rizzo, came forward with a story that would crack the case wide open. According to Frankie, Victor had been in trouble. He had borrowed money years ago, back when he was first starting out with the hot dog cart. The loan had come from Salvatore Bruno's people. It was supposed to be a quick thing, paid back within months. But the debt had never gone away. The interest piled up. The threats started coming. And even though Victor had tried to keep his head down, it was only a matter of time before they came to collect. The night he was killed, Victor had refused to pay. Tommy DeLuca had been sent to make an example of him. He had dragged him into the alley, stabbed him, and left his body in the dumpster. And the hot dog? That was DeLuca's way of sending a message, a final insult. In the end, the case went to trial. DeLuca was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to life. The others involved, the men who had ordered the hit, managed to slip through the cracks, as men like that often do. Victor Rizzo's hot dog cart was eventually sold to another vendor. A new face took his place on that busy corner, and the city moved on, as it always does. But for those who knew him, for the people who bought their lunch from him every day, his story would always linger. A reminder that even in the most ordinary of places, danger is never far away. Thank you for listening to Artificial Evidence. The story of Victor Rizzo is a testament to how the past never truly stays buried, how even the smallest debts can come due when you least expect them. I am Owen Carver, and you have been listening to Artificial Evidence, where the algorithm knows. If you enjoyed this episode, take a moment to like, subscribe, and leave a review. It helps us continue bringing these stories to light. Until next time, stay curious and keep questioning the evidence.